So, but the interesting thing with your story is you come from like a completely different industry than fashion, right?
Yep.
How in the world did you transition from what you were in to the fashion industry, women's fashion at that?
Well, it's funny, Sean. My first entrepreneurial was to launch of course, construction company, which logically leads right into, finance, mortgage,
Right,
and then
right, yep.
perfectly logical to get into women's fashion. I mean, everybody does it that way, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
so it's one thing to transition as an entrepreneur to like something new, but like you came from this like massively male-dominated industry, real
Right.
estate, construction, mortgage,
right.
to women's shoes and handbags.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, it's funny. The first two businesses, roofing and mortgages. First of all, they're commodities, right? You're really giving products that people can get almost anywhere. So differentiating ourselves was definitely difficult, and I focused on the actual quality of the product and the quality of the service.
Right.
Okay. The nice part about coming into women's fashion is it's not a commodity. Okay. We've risen above that. Now I'm building a real brand. So I had to layer on higher quality and higher service with all of the difficulties of building a brand, especially a luxury woman's brand.
Okay, but let's do this. But how did you go from real estate to some of those years
Right.
to like what was how did you get approached to even get into fashion?
I guess what I'm saying, Sean, is the end product is the least important for most entrepreneurs when you really think about it. It's everything that lies underneath it. So I didn't think of any of them as tough transitions. I thought if you give great product, if you give great service, and now if you can build a brand that people see value in, you've done great. It doesn't just happen to be in women's fashion, because if you think about it, when you think about fashion overall, if you're looking at men versus women are much more open to new
Yeah,
brands.
but you're not. Hold on. I want you to get straight to the answer of the question.
Right.
How did you fucking get into women's handbags? You had to have met somebody. You had to have been talking to somebody.
Right.
As entrepreneurs, opportunities present themselves.
Right.
I want to know how the fuck you
What
learned
kicked
about,
off the thought?
Yes. What got you into women's handbags?
Right. Well,
That's what I want to know.
I was sitting down with one of Victoria's Secret model.
And just so you guys know, this is how fucking entrepreneurs talk to each other. All right? We call each other out on our bullshit, and I say, no. Don't give me the fucking radio show answer. Give me the
real,
fucking real answer. So this is how we
Right.
talk to each
Right.
other, all right?
Well, like anything, it was an idea. I'm going to do a baby bag. I'm going to do it with some supermodel, and that started the idea. I found a designer. I said, "Can you design this for me?" While she was working on the designs, that idea was, fell apart, and here I was. I was in the women's handbag business, and then from there, an opportunity presented to become the partner of that designer, and 8.5 years later, we have Hammett.
Dude, that's the story. So you have an idea for something in a completely different industry,
Right.
as we all do. We always come up
Sure.
with these ideas, right?
Yeah.
And the difference is we talk about on people that come to Ask a Million, they're always like, I have this idea. How do I make it happen?
Right.
Well, you just go make it happen. That's just the
make
way
it
it
happen.
works.
Right.
And as you start to paraphrase what you're saying, as you're making it happen, as an entrepreneur, our minds are always open to opportunities.
Right.
An opportunity then presented itself for you to go into business with the designer themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And then it grew.
Right. And my vision for what the business was going to be when I started is completely different to where we are today, Sean.
Right.
And that's called the pivot. If you're going to really think of yourself as an entrepreneur, you have to also allow for flexibility of plan. Within 8 months, me and the designer were done. Couldn't work together.
Makes sense.
And then I had to spend a couple more years learning the business without the original designer I started with, without any experience in fashion, without any experience in manufacturing of fashion products, distribution, sales. And so I slowly had to pivot around to figure out that part of the business before I could get back to what I really thought I would be doing from the beginning, which was building the brand, the marketing, sales.
Okay, well let's go over here to the egg chairs and let's talk about that, because one of the other questions I get asked a lot is, do I need a college degree in order to be an entrepreneur? And I know this will be a good one for you.
You know how I feel about
Let's go over
that.
and talk about this. Dude, these are awesome.
Aren't they great? Sweet, look at that up there.
These are badass. All right, Rick, come on, man. Let's do this. Let's do this. Get situated however you want. So over there, we were talking about, whether college is important or not.
Yes.
And my story is I went to college for a year and a half. I went just to go.
Right.
I never really looked at college as something that was going to get me somewhere. It was something
Right.
my parents always said I needed to do.
Sure.
So I did it. But you've got a different path. But what I want to talk about is that you've been in roofing, real estate, mortgage, and now fashion, building a fashion brand.
Sure.
Do you think that college was required for you to be doing what you've done and what you're doing now, or could you have done it without college?
Absolutely required.
Absolutely required.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
Because let's say I've had my ups and my downs. When you're in your downs and you're looking for that next opportunity, I was always able to fall back in talking to people, investors, partners. I have an MBA in finance. It just gave me a higher level of respect. Also, I think the things I learned in college, both interpersonally and education in finance, I've gone back on when I really need them.
That's a good point because, when I was, maybe, I talked about, numbers don't lie, and I have this image that I throw up on Instagram, and it shows from 23, 24, 25, 26, all the way up to 32, broke.
Right.
During that time, I couldn't even get a job that had even a decent salary because I couldn't check that box.
Yeah.
Do you have a college degree?
It's like anything else, Sean. It ain't gonna hurt you.
What do you think?
College degree, MBA, PhD, 5 years experience, 10 years, these are all make you look stronger, especially when you need it.
What do you think it was about college, if you had to narrow it down to anything or a couple things or nothing? What do you think it is about college other than just having the certificate, which I agree
Right.
gives you some credibility?
Right.
What else about college and finishing, helped you in your future, relationships or anything, whatever?
Well, George Howick was my first professor that really inspired me to be an entrepreneur. If I had met George my sophomore year and he hadn't shown me the path to becoming an entrepreneur, remember, this is the 80s.
Right.
No one thought about becoming an entrepreneur. He actually had been very successful, a multimillionaire before he started to be a professor, and he showed me the light, which was you can do whatever you want in business. You don't have to follow the traditional path, accounting, law, sales, marketing. He's like, how about if you learn a little bit of all of them and you learn how to think like an entrepreneur? Way ahead of his time.
No, that makes. Now, are you still friends with any of the people in college, or?
I went back and spoke for George for 8 out of the 10 years after I graduated to his classroom to talk about all the lessons of having my own business. Hopefully I inspired a few of them to be like me.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So let me ask you this now. Now it's fast forward, it's 2017.
Is it? Holy shit.
Exactly.
I gotta get to work.
Dude, life is fucking flying by. Exactly. Life is flying, dude. So let's take it now. It's 2017.
Yeah.
I'm 18, 19 years old, getting out of high school.
Right.
I have no idea what I want to do with the rest of my life, but I know I want to be rich.
Sure.
I see all this crap on Instagram and Facebook that that working a job is the worst thing you could ever do.
Right.
Do I go to college or no?
Absolutely. Why would you not want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals that all have the same goal?
To party?
And get a degree. And you can do both. There's no limit.
What about,
especially if you don't know.
What about
when are you
coming
going
out
to
of
know?
debt $50,000 and then still not knowing what you're going to do, but now being $50,000 in debt?
Well, I would rather be $50,000 in debt and 4 years or maybe 5 years of being surrounded by people that are ultimately going to be more successful, because it is proven. On the average, a person with a college degree makes more than high school. On the average, a person with a master's degree makes more than an undergraduate degree. I'd rather be with all of those people in $50,000 in debt than have no debt and be 5 years older, surrounded by the same people I went to high school with none of them having a degree.
Can't argue with that shit. How about that? Okay, well, then let's talk about that. Okay, so, Mr. I just got an MBA, and now because of an MBA, I can go out there and do this.
I just didn't want to work.
How old were
Go all the way to the PhD if you can do it.
Damn straight.
College is fun.
I know a lot of people that are lifetime students.
Sean, you know how I sell college to non-college kids is? It's fun.
True. You complain about a job being boring, well, just stay in college.
College is fun.
Go get the whole PhD.
If your college isn't fun, find another college.
Exactly. Well, then let's talk about that. So how old were you when you finished with your MBA? Because that's not one you get done at 22.
Yeah, believe it or not, I was 23 and a half.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so 24 years old, you're just getting your MBA.
Yeah.
Did you, and your professor says, think about being an entrepreneur. Did you go right into being an entrepreneur, or what job did you get? What did you do?
I think you have to work for people, especially good people, to learn the skill set before you start your own. So when I got out here, just like everyone else, new to California, broke, I needed money. I interviewed. I took a job selling advertising, but that sounds better than it was because it was door-to-door Yellow Page sales. And
Door to what?
Yellow Pages. And it was
Door-to-door Yellow Page ads.
almost no salary, straight commission, but it had the potential to make the most. And I knew if I could be one of the top reps, I could almost make 6 figures. And guess what? I crushed 6 figures. First year. Rookie of the year, top rep. But I worked hard.
So let's talk about that, because I know your story, but your story is hilarious about why you moved to California. All right. So tell the story of you get to college. How did you get to where you came and you moved to California?
Meaning, how did I physically get out here?
All of it. The whole story of what brought you here, what made you decide that California was where you were moving.
I first touched the West Coast when I was 17. I'd graduated high school. Me and my best friend decided we were going to put our thumbs out and hitchhike from Cleveland, Ohio. And so we went from Cleveland, we ended up in San Diego. It was 1984, the Olympics. I fell in love with the West Coast. But I knew that I wasn't going to stay here. I really wanted to go to college.
Right.
Went back, received my undergraduate degree in finance, and then I came out again for a summer to visit some friends with a girlfriend I was dating, and this time I came to Huntington Beach. Again, loved California. But I went back, received my MBA. The whole time I was getting it, I knew that I was going to move here. So I didn't even wait for ceremonies. Threw a couple things in a U-Haul. I had my cat, buddy of mine, John, and we drove across the country and ended up right here in Hermosa Beach, California, and we're still here.
Dude, that is awesome.
That was 1990.
That's called having a dream and following it right there, baby.
Not letting go of it.
Yes.
But every time you go back to Ohio, it was a really easy reminder that I wanted to be out here.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that are watching us right now that are from other countries.
Yeah.
And they have the dream of getting out of their small town. It doesn't matter what city or country you live in the world. When you grow up in a small town, some of us just have that itch that we are not meant to be in a small town.
Yeah.
And people say, well, how do you do it? You just do it.
Just do it.
You just don't even think about it.
I'd never been to California before I thought of coming here.
You just do it.
Just saw pictures.
Nike was so brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it.
You
gotta, at least try it. You can always go back.
Yeah.
You can always go back to your home. You can always go back to a different job. You can always go back for more education. But you can't always go forward. Matter of fact, most people, that's the hardest part, going forward.
Yeah.
It's easier. They just keep going back.
If
My
you try
suggestion is go all the way, man. Really screw it up. Make a huge mistake. Get broke. Get desperate. Cry. If you get to that point, you would know at least you went for it. And guess what? At that point, you'll know who you really are, and you'll know if you really want it.
Absolutely. There's a saying I see on Instagram: if you try and fail, at least you tried.
Exactly.
Because most others won't.
Yes.
And that's what it's about. It's
Yeah.
like, people just, it still astonishes me that people will say, well, how did you do it?
Yeah.
And you, me, all of our friends, we just say, I didn't even have any other choice. I just did it. And how do you explain that to somebody that is saying, I'm trying to decide if I want to go for it in life?
Yeah.
Well, you just go for it.
Yeah.
They think there's some magic formula.
Now, what I think you also have to have a vision. I used to tell people, like, imagine your LinkedIn, right? 20 years from now. Is it going to be filled with excuses and things that you thought you should do but you never did, so it means it's a blank page? Or is it going to list all of these going for it moments, which turned into your life's resume? And if you picture your life's resume 20 years from now, every day, all you got to do is do what you do best. Go for it. Make it happen.
Yep.
By the way, 20 years from now, you're not going to list all the mistakes. All you're going to list is the victories.
Exactly.
Because my mistakes are longer than, and so are yours, Sean, right?
Exactly, absolutely.
I screwed up so much stuff. It's crazy. I'm divorced. So did I screw up my marriage? No. It was a great marriage. It just didn't last longer than it lasted. But guess what? I would keep it on my life's resume. Right? I've lost all my money twice. It wouldn't be on my life's resume, but guess what? How I made it back afterwards, that's there.
Absolutely.
But if I hadn't lost it twice, I probably wouldn't have the success I have now.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I mean, you can't be afraid to go.
So okay, so now let's talk. So let's transition. Now you've got this job, making 6 figures. selling Yellow Page ads, and what's the next step?
Well, I didn't have a life's dream to do door-to-door Yellow Page. It was how to make the most money.
Yes.
I met an entrepreneur who saw in me what I didn't even see in myself. And he asked me to join him to launch a roofing company.
How
He'd
did you
already
meet
had
him?
one. He was one of my customers.
So one of your customers approached you.
I think you'll find if you're doing a really good job, even if you're working the counter at a local grocery store, you'll know you're doing a really good job because people will try to hire you.
Boom.
If
Absolutely.
you're not getting offers to be hired, no matter what you're doing right now, I promise you, you need to do better.
Absolutely.
So he said, come join me. I see that
like
you
in a
can
new
do this."
business or to work for him?
He offered to help me start another roofing company, and he'd be my partner.
Dude, that's awesome.
So he was going to be my mentor.
So you guys go into business in roofing,
Right.
And that was your first entrepreneur thing.
Yep. And he had been in business for 10 years.
And how long have you been in roofing?
Him?
You.
None. I had zero experience.
Wait a second. You can start a business without having any experience?
You know what? You need a
That's
mentor.
possible in this world?
You need a mentor, and I had
Huh,
one.
interesting. Interesting. You can start a business just like that.
You can. I just went for it. You know.
So he agreed to kind of be your mentor,
Yep.
be your trainer,
Yep.
and he would give you all the things that you needed to do, and he just required from you,
Yep.
you better be ready to work your ass off.
Yep. And you know, within less than 9 months, my brand new roofing company was doing more volume than his established company, and that's when he asked me to be his full partner in all of them. So then we partnered up in his company, and we started to build it together.
Wow. So you have this new startup roofing company. How many years did you stay in that before you moved into real estate?
You know, it was about 6 years. 6 years in roofing. We went from 1 office to 7 offices around Southern California, and I ended up selling the first company I started.
Okay, so
on to
while
the
you're going
second.
through this, okay, so you're 26 now, about when you're getting into roofing?
Yeah, 26.
26, you're getting into roofing. A few years into it, you got all these locations. Let's talk about the real life of the entrepreneur.
Right.
Because now you're starting to make some money, I'll bet.
Right. Yes.
Where do you start spending your money?
I was the typical cheesy boy, man. Ohio boy. I got my first Ferrari. I got my first NSX. I got my first 37-foot speedboat. I got a Jeep painted pink. I was traveling all the time. Vegas was the second home.
Oh,
Let's just
man.
say I didn't save a lot.
So you went out there, you were young,
Right.
new to money,
Right. Right.
and you had no financial advisor per se,
Right.
other than how you looked at the balance of your checking account, probably.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how you gauged whether or not you wanted something.
Yeah.
You always had these childhood dreams of making a lot of money, so
Yes.
you committed the cardinal sin
Yeah.
and went out there and just
Spend it all.
blew it all and had fun.
Well, I bought a house, so, yeah, but, yes, it was, I thought the money would just come every year bigger and bigger, and, just like any entrepreneur, you have your good ones and have a couple
So
tougher
how long did
ones.
that how long did that last? How long did the
I was-
upswing last?
I was on
Come on, no,
I did good.
don't give me the bullshit answer. Give me how long did the upswing last before it all dropped off the cliff?
The truth answer is I never went completely under negative, like to bankruptcy, the first time. I just had no cash left, and all I had left was a home.
Okay, so
So
you're
I
on the
didn't
way
lose my
up.
home.
You're on the way up.
Yeah.
You start to experience that the cash is drying up a little
Right.
bit. What's the first thing you do?
Well,
you sell something? Do
everything.
you?
Got rid of the Ferrari, got rid of everything slowly. Had to get rid of it all, and then ended up just in just literally one residential real estate project, no money in the bank, and I might have owed $1 million.
Wow. You owed $1 million.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
could have been.
Damn.
Maybe more, I'm not sure.
So you go. So let me ask you this then, because this is something that a lot of people need to understand. There's so much in that.
Right.
First off, but let's talk about the emotion.
Right.
What is it like emotionally going from buying a Ferrari, a 36-foot speedboat, a killer ass house,
Right.
to then kind of slowly, because it doesn't happen in one day, right? It's how long was it from the top up here to when you finally got to here?
You
And I'm
know-
not saying here was I'm just saying, but when you were like,
when you're in it, you don't see it.
Right.
Just gonna keep coming.
But that's why it's cool that you can look back on
yeah,
it now,
and you
right?
look, it was so obvious to me. I mean, I'd stopped working hard. You know, I wasn't paying attention to what was important in life. And next thing you know, you're like, holy moly, I don't have any money. That's exactly. It was
how long
about
do you
a
think that was?
2.5 years to get there.
2.5 years.
Fun 2.5 years though.
Hell yeah.
Maybe a little bit
yes.
longer.
Yeah, so 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the roofing company was gone.
Yeah.
How was the relationship with the guy?
Fine. You know, it all ended.
So you guys.
I got out
Because I know
okay.
you've always been
Yeah.
a man of your word.
Yeah.
You know, but
Everything's
at some point
great.
mistakes happen. And,
No, everything worked out great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get down here. So that's the first time.
Right. Then I had
So
to figure
then-
out. They figured a new way to make money.
Okay. So now you're back to even.
Right.
You're back to even.
Yeah. Well,
What kind of business do you go into after that?
you know, I
Or
was.
do you go get a job?
I was lucky.
Does your MBA
yeah.
come back into play?
Yeah, I actually did. I went and got a job and worked for a startup in the internet space, selling advertising. Shocker. Back to
Right.
my roots.
Right.
And that was for almost 9 months. Built a heck of a team around me. But if this was the first internet boom where everybody was going to be a millionaire, sound
Sure.
familiar? Like we're just going through one right now.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe it just ended.
Right.
Learned a lot about internet advertising, all the space, but our product never worked. We had $0 of revenue. We raised $40 million over that time, and we burned it all. Luckily, I wasn't a principal, so that's not on me. I was
Right.
just an employee.
Right.
But you know, they paid me well, and then I decided this wasn't for me, and I looked a way to really make real money again, and that's when the residential mortgage industry was, you know, in its nascent stages. And I had another mentor, a guy named Steve Fishman, that I approached and said, will you teach me mortgage business? I want to start a company.
And so he became your next mentor.
Yeah, and I sat in his office, listened, learned, till I, felt I knew enough, and then I went for it.
And then how long did you do that?
Did that really, and did that while I developed real estate up until middle of 2006.
So how many years was that?
That was about another six and a half
So for
years.
6.5 years
Yeah.
you did the mortgages
Yeah.
again, and you did you become a millionaire again?
By 2001, in the middle, I was the #1 mortgage guy in the company. I was making a lot of money.
What's a lot? 100,000 back then?
No, about 50,000 a month.
50,000 a month.
Yeah, but I still
That's
spent
a pretty.
lot.
That's a pretty decent amount of money. That's a pretty decent.
Not
amount
every
of money.
month, but it was
But yeah,
good
yeah.
months. Yeah. No, it was a good time if you look back. You know,
Oh, absolutely. So you
Mortgage, and
started
I was
spending
developing
again?
real estate. Yeah, I got married. You know, traveled, had a bachelor party in Ibiza for 3 weeks. You know, normal things, right?
So you stayed focused on working.
Right.
You stayed focused
You
on
know,
work.
sometimes it has to happen 3 times to get it in your head.
Okay, so you did that for a few years, and then
Yeah.
what happened to that?
Yeah, well then, I got out of the mortgage business and I took a couple of years off from middle of 06 to 08. Got divorced, had my kid.
So it was another
and
one of
all
those
things.
type of periods.
Yeah, I just wasn't making any money and the income stopped. And so I went back to, not above zero for sure. And I thought was a nice amount of savings and equity in real estate. And then I launched this business.
That is called the life of an entrepreneur.
It was
right
pretty
there.
good. It was a good run.
That's
The
the
second
life
time I
of-
was actually pretty good, honestly, with the money. Not anything like the first time.
Right.
No Ferraris, no speedboats, but a lot more travel, a lot more lifestyle.
Experiences. More
Right.
experiences.
I just wish, there's always the regrets, right? I did very well, but if I would have doubled or tripled my efforts during that boom, I'd be retired. It was the greatest real estate boom that ever happened in America. And for the people that really went for it, you've seen The Big Short, the guy that went for it afterwards.
Yeah.
They'll never work again. And
Yeah.
then we live in a community where a lot of people went for it, and they'll never have to work again.
Amazing.
I was actually too conservative.
Well, let's what I want to talk about now is I want to talk about now you got done with the mortgage thing, you launch and start getting into Hammett, your current enterprise.
Sure.
And I want you to tell people what you're doing now, but I want to know, because everybody's watching here now wants to know how at this time, after having one meltdown, then having another quasi meltdown, how in the world did you convince somebody to invest close to $1 million in this enterprise?
Yeah. Whew, good salesmanship.
So
Good
let's
salesmanship.
head over and let's talk about that.
All right.
Okay, so we were talking about that you had your first meltdown after you overspent and bought too many Ferraris.
Right.
All right. Then you stopped. Then you started rebuilding your wealth again.
Right.
And you didn't spend money on Ferraris and boats, but you started taking too much time off work and investing in too many experiences with a wife and a kid and all this stuff.
Sure.
And then you lost it again. Then in 2008, you got into getting into the fashion industry.
Sure.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the first, say, 3 years of building a new business in a new industry that you didn't have a lot of experience with. Sure. What was some of that experience like?
Well, first of all, I thought with my master plan, we would be in all the department stores and we'd be a multi-million-dollar brand overnight. And I spent that way for the first 6 months with my own money.
How much do you think you put in of your own money in the first 6 months?
Probably close to $500,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really thought that it would leverage and it would make things go faster.
So you mean you can't start a fashion brand with zero money like these things teach you on the internet?
Probably not.
All right, we're going to come back to that.
How about
let's
let's just
that
say
more.
no?
Okay, we're going to talk about that more.
Yeah.
But okay, so you put a bunch of money in the first 6 months, and then what happens?
You know what? My original partnership with the designer fell apart within the first 9 months. So then I was on my own. I didn't have a lot of extra money to put into the business and also live, so I had to start looking for ways to finance the business and make it grow. One of the first things I did was talk to my closest friends. I was able to get a little bit of money from a few people, very little, helped a little, and then I leveraged the suppliers, manufacturers.
So let's talk about that, because people are going to say, well, how did you do it?
Yeah,
I mean,
you got to just go ask for it.
But I mean, did you just call them on the phone?
So many business plans written up, I have no idea.
So you did go do a business plan.
When I look at the 1 year into the business and my forecast,
oh, yes.
It's one of those things you just got to go in and ask for it. And I truly believed every time.
But how did you do it? Did you call them on the phone and say, let's meet for coffee? Did you meet in a conference room? How did you pitch them?
Dinners, informal. I would have borrowed money from someone's dog if they would have loaned it to me.
Right, I bet.
I just said, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, would you be interested?
And how many people do you think you met with that first time?
50.
50 people.
Yeah.
This was 2011?
Informal. For between 2009 and 11, because remember, I was looking for money after the first year.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
So for 2 years, you were talking to pretty much anybody who had $1 and saying, do you want to loan me some money?
Referrals, yep.
And during that time, were you able to convince any? Like how many people?
Yeah, a few people loaned me a few money, some short-term loans I paid back, other longer-term loans that I still have. I ended up actually finding some creative financing through what's called credit card advances. Back then it was pretty new, so I could get money against future charges.
Okay, so let's talk about that. In a business, you've got receivables because you're making products, you're selling it to your customers.
Right.
Explain credit card financing, because this is a legit, viable option for people that have bad credit, which you probably had.
Right. Yeah, or none.
Or none.
Right.
Right. No other access to bank loans, home equity lines of credit, but you need capital for your business. So credit card financing is a legitimate way to finance your business for cash flow.
Right.
How did that work for you?
Well, it's very expensive when you look at the interest rate and cost, but it got me through another tough period. Remember, I had already sold all my assets. Then I stopped making payments on credit cards and on my home.
Right.
And then I eventually had to do workouts for all of those, and I lost my home in a short sale, so that also provided financing up till about 2011.
Yep.
Okay? So here I was. I still need money.
Okay, so let's talk about it. You're basically in the process of losing all your money while you're starting a new business.
Right. Yeah. It was extremely challenging.
How do you work through that emotionally? Like, how do you do that?
I can tell you what you don't.
How do you not get unmotivated? How do you not lose your motivation during a time like that?
I think you really got to know what you like. I've been here before. I've made money. I can do this. You got to believe in yourself, number one. And how do you not lose your motivation? Is you get out of bed. You just get out of bed. That's the start of every day.
Right.
And you work late, and you put everything you can into it. And you have little wins. You focus on little wins.
But what about this? What about those people that say, but how do you have balance in your life?
Right.
What do you think at that time about balance?
Balance. I mean, if you're racing at 180 miles an hour and you're sleeping, you have balance, don't you? Because
that's true.
In the middle, you're going 90.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's your balance when you're an entrepreneur. You go as hard as you can, as fast as you can, and for as long as you can when the chips are down. And then a real smart entrepreneur, where I'm at now, goes as hard as he can, as fast as he can, when everything is coming your way. Because now is when you can really make it happen.
You're learning how to parlay that success.
Right.
Whereas the first two meltdowns,
right. First two
you
times
dropped off.
First two times as things got really good, I laid back.
Yeah, you rested.
I laid back.
At the wrong times.
Yep. You know?
Makes sense.
You know, like
so you stay motivated when
Yeah.
a lot of people lose motivation.
Right.
There's the difference between an unsuccessful and a successful
Right.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You get motivated when you're down, not unmotivated.
Right.
That's such a key term that you say that, Tony, because I say that all the time. So now you're using credit card financing.
Sure.
Now let's talk again about
Let's
what,
talk
what
about
was that about? What was that like? Credit card financing.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was.
Explain what that is first off.
Yeah,
Explain what credit card financing is
let-
for our audience that doesn't even know what it is.
Let's assume that over the next 6 months, I expect to charge future orders on credit cards to the amount of $100,000.
Customers paying you.
Right, $100,000 over 6 months.
Right.
There's a lender that might advance $40,000 that you have to pay back plus interest over 6 months. That makes sense?
High interest. What's an example?
Well, when they were
Get ready
when
for
they
this
were brand
number.
new,
It's this number right here.
they were
How
about
much?
120% per year.
Ding, ding,
Loan
ding,
shark.
ding.
Loan shark.
Basically like a loan shark.
Now remember though,
But why is that
2011.
okay though? So why is it okay to borrow that kind of money
Well, for
your business?
the growth rate plus margin meant more to me than the cost of the funds. Got it?
So you were making enough margin to be able to pay that interest and still continue to grow the business.
Exactly. And luckily, I did do that analysis. Otherwise, I would have walked away.
Right.
It wouldn't
Because a
have
lot of
been
people do that. They don't have the margins and they end up going bankrupt and losing their whole business because they didn't calculate their margins.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so you're doing the credit card processing.
Right.
During this time, you're asking everybody, their mother, their dog, the kitchen sink, you're asking everybody for money.
Right.
All right, so this is 2011, and this is where I want to get to the story of, in 2011, you actually meet a person who ends up becoming your angel investor in your business.
And
How
at the
did you
time,
guys
I didn't know.
How did you guys even meet?
You know, there's a mutual friend, actually, the person that I was developing real estate with, that when I was looking for money, he denied me. Love that.
This is one of your best friends.
And one of my best friends
Tells
said,
you no.
Tony, and by the way, that's how you keep friends.
Right.
Honesty. I was denied by a lot of friends. Keep going.
They said, we love you.
We love you, but Tony,
don't believe in you enough to give
absolutely
you a
not. But there is someone that has probably a higher risk reward. You need to meet him. That's how I met a lot of people when I was asking, and he introduced me to this gentleman. We met for coffee, spoke for a couple of hours. He was high energy, extremely motivated, had already been successful in his business, was looking to sell it, and he said no.
I don't know.
But he said,
nice guy.
But he said, I'll keep an eye on things with you. If you want, come back to me and keep up with me on the business. That was 2011, like spring.
Cool.
And then I kept on going, and
So first off, you're reaching out to people who are friends.
Yeah.
And then your friends, because they love you and they care about you and they
Right.
want you to succeed, they're introducing you
Right.
to people.
Right. And remember, the whole time, I am still working in the business, working very hard.
Right. You're
And
still
I'm having
working on your
small victories.
Okay.
So the story was always improving, which was great. And my close friends saw that.
Yeah.
And so they would help where they could, whether it be on a referral. Some even did pro bono work that I would pay later. You know, I had a lot of people that really helped me out without writing a check.
Right. Hold on, just like every journey is like all over the place. I even got to get my thoughts because I know how
Right.
it is as an entrepreneur.
Right, no,
So
it's
2011, you're really out there looking for an angel investor. You
Right.
get a lot of no's.
Right.
And then, so how do you end up meeting the person that ends up investing in your company? Like, how
Well,
did you guys get back
You
together?
know, very
whatever?
specifically, a couple of years gone by. In those couple of years, I lost my house, and luckily my friends supported me. I was able to couch surf, which doesn't sound as bad as it was, because I got 1 or 2 months with different friends at different times. But in the end, I was building a luxury fashion brand in couch surfing.
And that's a way to
And
glamorize it
it
right
kept
there.
it really simple.
As somebody who's couch surfed before, it's not that glamorous.
They weren't all couches. I got a second bedroom once in a while.
Right.
And but I learned a lot there too, especially with some of my friends who also were entrepreneurs. So it was great. I come out of that period, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's time that I could, rent a place again. And I'm at a party, and I run across the same person, and he just said, "Hey, how's it going?" And of course, everything's going great because it really was better than 11.
Right.
Business was a little bit stronger. I felt better about what I was doing, and I just said, hey, I'm doing really good. And then he went, dun, dun, dun. Where are you living? I said, I've been couch surfing for almost 2 years. And he offered that I could stay at his place for a while. And I just thought it'd be another couch surf. So
Right.
I jumped in and actually stayed at his place for a couple of months in a spare bedroom. And he ended up becoming one of my business mentors.
Okay, so you're couch surfing with this guy for a couple months.
Yeah.
And how does that translate to him becoming an investor? Like,
Well, easy. He just wrote me a check.
Oh, there you go.
And so, I never wanted to overstay my welcome.
right.
And so I left, kept working on the business, couch surfed a few more friends, and then I called him up. I said, hey, I'm ready to be a roommate with someone I can pay some rent. Want me to move in? The bedroom was still available. When I moved in, it gave us time to really get to know each other. So, then it was every night sitting around talking business. He was selling his company, looking at a couple other opportunities. I was trying to build Hammett. We had some, what I think, really good, healthy conversations. A lot of time, him just telling me really what I needed to hear,
Right.
versus my, staff or others, which tell me what I want to hear.
Very true.
And through these tough conversations, I realized I really needed to really focus on the financial side of the business. I really needed to hone in exactly what I wanted.
Because at this time, are you still paying that high interest
Oh yeah,
loan?
killing me. Yeah, I was paying a high interest in a lot of different places,
Okay.
and never was enough money.
So what do you think it was at that moment after you're,
Yeah.
now you're a roommate, you guys are developing this relationship
Right.
of trust. What do you think finally put the investor over the top to actually invest in your company?
Well, I think because we were able to structure a deal where he was able to give me twice as much capital as I was already borrowing at a much higher interest rate, and even though it was twice as much cash, it was total payments which were less than I were already paying. It gave him peace of mind that I could make the payments because I was already doing them. It also gave us twice as much cash to further grow the business. So it was a win-win for everybody.
That makes sense. Okay. He invested money in the company. This reduces the amount of interest payments that you're making, or actually it's about the same, but you got double the capital to work with. This was
Sure.
2014.
Yep.
So it's 2017. What kind of impact has it made by having that extra cash? And what's the relationship like? Did they pull out their money, keep their money, give you more?
Right.
What's the relationship been like the last 3 years?
Well, I think with any good relationship, you build on it. So each year, actually, I was able to get a little bit more capital from the same investor because the company was growing. As a matter of fact, we've been growing about 50% every year for the past 5 years. With that additional capital every year, we were able to invest further into our design, into manufacturing, into distribution, into my people, and then here we are in a brand new office space.
Right.
And that main investor is still with us, still our primary investor.
And how much has that investor invested to date now?
Almost $1 million.
Almost $1 million.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And hopefully he's made a pretty nice return, and he's happy.
That's cool. So now we saw your first rise to a meltdown.
Yeah.
Second rise to a meltdown. 2014, you're couch surfing.
Sure.
It's 3 years later.
Yeah.
What's your life like today?
Well, it's funny. A year and a half ago, I moved back into the exact same home that I had lost previously. I'm renting it, but I got to tell you, I feel like I own it.
That's pretty
I
cool.
also did a brand new building, new construction. The whole company is here. We're carried at almost 500 points of distribution through the U.S. We launched a footwear line, and I have to tell you, the company's probably in the best financial shape that it's been since I started it.
That's awesome. And the investor is still with you.
He is.
Dude, that is awesome. So this guy invests money in your company.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it's like because, somebody invested, money in my company that I was growing, so I know how big of a deal it was. If there was anything that you could say to the person that invests in your company and has given you this next lift in your life and helped you build the company that you want today, what do you say to somebody like that?
And I'd say thank you. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting me when no one else would.
Well, man, one of my mentors always said to me that when you believe in somebody, you write them a check.
Yeah.
And I was happy to write you a check.
Sean, you're the man.
Peace out.